Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. I have the absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to sit down here this afternoon with founder and CEO of Koopid.ai, Dr. Venky Krishnaswamy. So, Venky, it's an absolute pleasure to have this opportunity to chat to you. What I'd like you to do first off, if you can, just for the benefit of our audience, if you wouldn't mind doing an introduction, who you are, a little bit about your background, how you came to be here, and then we'll start to talk a bit more about who Koopid are and what it is you do. So lovely to meet you, Venky. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely, Graham. Pleasure to be here with you, and pleasure to be partnering with Trust Business Partners and doing business in the UK. We are totally delighted to be able to do that. A little bit about us. Our website says Koopid was born from a simple premise that we want to eliminate the silos of channels and boundaries between automation and live agent service to deliver seamless experiences to customers. Right? That's simply what we're here for. Right? Essentially, we believe that the call center industry in general, it's a mature industry. It's been around for about 30 years. Was born after the toll-free number was invented, and the telcos got really mature in their infrastructure, and so it seemed like a fantastic way to serve customers, and it has stood the test of time. But as with anything that's lasted 30 years or more, it accrues layers of complexity, layers of functionality that are there were probably there for a particular reason at a particular time, but nobody's gotten rid of it, and so on. And with the result that I think most everybody who's ever called into a call center will have some tale of woe, some story of how they were not served right, or how the person they talked to didn't understand them, or how the business didn't have the right or how they were annoyed by how long they had to wait, or transfer to the wrong person, whatever, right? Everybody has a tale of woe, and our belief is that kind of experience that most people can relate to, a negative experience in some cases, is a result of the complexity that's been built into this infrastructure, right? Our mission is to tear down the complexity, restore simplicity, and a focus on customer delight, which I think is where enterprises need to be, want to be, and would love to be if they had an opportunity, to be able to deliver that experience. Right? That's the reason we're here. We saw an opportunity 2 or 3 years ago when we founded Koopid to be able to rethink this entire paradigm of delivering customer service. And so if you look at a little bit of the before and the after, the before was, it grew up around voice, grew up around telephony, grew up around this notion of the customer having to wait in line for an agent to be served, and it's grown a little bit over time by adding new capabilities as they came along. So web chat, email, the ability to do outbound campaigns as well as have the customer come in. So these things have been added on to various portfolios. But when you add these things onto an infrastructure that's fundamentally was designed for a different thing, they kind of look like different pieces of the puzzle, not or different pieces of different puzzles, not a piece of a holistic picture, right? So our insight is that if you start from a point of view that says that a customer's experience is the totality of their dealings with the business, whether it's self-service, whether it's on a social media channel, whether it's on the phone talking to somebody, or whether they got a notification via text message alerting them to something, right? For the customer, it's the totality of that experience that matters. And for the business, they need to think about it in that totality and provide a framework, or think about a framework that is customer experience in, and the technology to support that, right? And that is that's the basis of our product. That's the thesis of our message to the market, our reason for being in the market. and we're absolutely delighted to be able to re-energize the industry with that what we believe to be very fresh thinking in the marketplace.
A lot of passion there, Venky. It's coming through. I think you're absolutely right. I think it is a mature market, and I think we all sadly have more bad experiences to report than we do good experiences. And I think the world's changing as well in terms of the way we choose to interact. So it's a good setup, but what'd be really nice is to tell the viewer a little bit more about you, Dr. Venky, how you came to be here, what your background is, why we should even listen to you, what is it you bring to the party, and perhaps in doing so you can tell us a little bit more about, because I happen to know you're all very smart people. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about all the smart people who are helping Koopid bring some of this great technology to market?
Yeah, absolutely. Myself, I've spent my whole career in this communications collaboration industry. It's such a fascinating, beautiful industry. It's not just rich in technology, but it's rich in the values of communication. Right? It's in some sense the technology supports our humanity in some sense, right? I mean, so it's a great kind of industry to work in. I've been, as I said, I've been in this industry a long time. Started my career at Bell Labs, which at that time was the mecca of everything communication, as most of people in the industry know. The telephone was invented there. The patent that relates to call centers came from Bell Labs. Practically speech, all of speech technologies were germinated and grown in Bell Labs. So it was just a fantastic place to spend early career, sort of just soaking in that technology. I spent a lot of time in that organization. Basically rose to be the head of Avaya Labs, which was one of the spin-outs from the Bell Labs organization. Avaya, another great player in the industry, leader, pioneer in many of the enterprise communication technologies. I'm gratified that I was able to contribute there. One of the things that I'm particularly proud of is that I probably built the world's first voice over IP telephone back in the mid-90s. It could do CD quality voice, video, it could do web collaboration, all in the form factor of a phone that could connect to an Ethernet, right? So any one of these things would have been unusual in those times, connecting a phone to the Ethernet, or being able to do video conferencing, or be able to play audio or do audio at high fidelity. But bringing all that together in a span of a project that lasted about 12 months, I didn't think much of it at that time, but in retrospect, it was something that to be truly proud of. The other thing that I'm proud of is also sort of getting onto the AI game very early in my career. I kind of recognized probably about 15 years ago the power of what was emerging. AI is again, likewise, a relatively sort of mature discipline. I was exposed to it when I was doing my PhD at Yale. But around 15 years ago, the notion of using some of the mathematical techniques that were coming up in that area of machine learning and applying them to communication problems or collaboration problems was truly fascinating to me. And so I led a group at Avaya Labs that brought a notion, that we called at that time, it was called the awareness engine, which is all about how do you surround a person's communications activities with everything that they need to know in order to be effective communicators, right? So, for example, if you're on a conference call, who are you talking to, and what are their backgrounds? What activity has taken place as a prelude to this conference call? How do you even get into that conference call easily with one click? How do you capture the results and the outcomes and annotate the actions as a result? Right? See, these are all the surrounding activities. So people are used to picking up the phone or were used to at that time and making a call to get into a conference. but the productivity or how to get the outcomes out of it that you want were left completely to this, very unstructured human realm, and people used to do that by email or hallway conversations, right? So we built a framework to bring software and structure to that process, and a lot of it was about AI, which is fundamentally AI. You can define as software systems that seem to be somewhat human in their characteristics in some way, that are intelligent. But in this case, we applied it to say, here's a stream of activity, the digital thread of that has been recorded. How can we make sense of it to provide inferences that make sense to the humans who are involved in that activity, or who are going to be continued, who are going to have continued involvement in that activity, right? Particularly proud of that work that resulted in a patent that was awarded Patent of the Year by the state of New Jersey. This is affectionately called an Eddie. That's head of Thomas Edison. So I was awarded among, with my colleagues, the Thomas Edison Patent Award for that. So, I hope and I do believe that that's prepared me and my team for this mission that we have at Koopid, which is to change the game in the call center industry. It's not just me, I have a fantastic team of very highly qualified technologists, 4 PhDs in our team. And among us, we probably have authored, over 250 patents, some of them extremely influential in our field. So I truly believe that we are a unique team, the likes of which are very hard to assemble. And we're uniquely positioned to tackle this problem of the call center for the future.
Well, congratulations! That's a fantastic achievement, I have to say, and some real superb achievements through your career so far, Venky. A nice opportunity now to segue into a little bit more around what is it that Koopid does. So, what does Koopid deliver, and who does it do it for? And I'm guessing here that AI is going to figure somewhere in your response.
Yeah. So yes, so Koopid is about the digital transformation of a contact center, right? And now that's a project, or that's a term that's become very popular in the last few years. And the digital transformation project, is kind of has urgency in many industries today, in many areas of business. Many businesses have chief digital officers, chief experience officers, and so on. So in the customer service, customer engagement, contact center sphere as well, digital transformation has become an important project, right? What does that really mean? Typically, digital transformation is about bringing some sphere of operations, process, or interface so that it can be converted to data, converted to a process that can be expressed in software and can be executed with a view to collecting metrics, improving the process continuously using the metrics that you collected, and so on, right? So those are some of the values associated with digital transformation, and it is involved essentially retooling systems so that whether it's person-to-person communication through a conversation, or data entry, or things that have to be collected on paper and faxed, transforming those processes so they're done more in a digital way, so that you can capture the digital trade, right? So that's kind of the context in which we operate. For the contact center, here's what I think that means. One, it means that your customers, the business's customers, should be able to contact them digitally, right? So a customer has access to all kinds of digital channels, including they have on the palm of their hands the most capable digital device yet invented, the smartphone, right? Beautiful interface, text, graphics, UI, camera, location, rich both in ability to communicate using all of these modalities, but also rich in the collection of data. How do you connect a user who's on that device into a contact center so that you provide that rich stream of communication and data exchange to the contact center, right? Old world, the customer's dialing, holding the thing to their ear, and the only information that's being exchanged is what is being said, right? In the new world, you want to capture, you want to be able to enable and capture information that happens at multiple levels in real time, asynchronously, offline, and attach it to this interaction. So the business has a holistic picture of the customer, and the customer has a rich, multi-dimensional way to interact and do business with the enterprise of their choice, right? So Koopid is about enabling that digital transformation. So we provide the digital channel access. We provide a rich and comprehensive data and metadata infrastructure that allows you to communicate these aspects like location, images, pictures, gestures, for that communication to be as rich as possible. And then finally, we provide a layer of processing, an AI layer of processing that can take this data and the digital channels that are being used and continuously process, run algorithms, and provide feedback into the whole process, both to the customer and to the business, about continuously improving and making things smarter, right? So Koopid is a digital transformation stack or digital customer experience orchestration stack that consists of all these layers. The digital channels, the rich information exchange, and the structuring in the form of workflows and data processing that allow AI algorithms to provide intelligence to that. And we take that whole stack, run it in the cloud, and we make it available to contact centers today. We don't insist that any enterprise retool what they have, throw out what they have a long planning or implementation cycle. We don't require any of that. We've built the stack and built all the integrations into existing contact centers so a customer can just sign up, use us in the cloud, attach them to the voice contact center they already have, and immediately start their digital transformation project, right? And the benefits to the business by doing this, number one, dramatic improvement in customer experience. The customer now has a brilliant smartphone optimized experience or social media optimized experience. Their choice, their channel, they have an experience that works brilliantly on each of those channels. For the business, the ability to communicate to the customer richly, not just speaking or texting, but exchange images, exchange processes, or have the customer enroll into a collaborative process with an agent guiding them, right? You can get a lot of work done that. So it enables you to do that. And finally, because we have this virtuous feedback loop of the data built in and AI algorithms, everything gets smarter, right? You can start out by being smart in the sense that many companies are that provide chatbots, for example. We can do natural language understanding, natural language conversations, but it's about a lot more than just understanding what the user is saying. It's about understanding their intent, understanding their frame of mind, understanding their goal or objective, and providing an experience that speaks to all of that through this layer. Right? That's what we provide our customers.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Venky. So I guess technology comes of age, doesn't it? Oftentimes technology seems so far ahead of itself. It probably is, and people aren't quite ready for it. But we're all in lockdown at the moment with COVID-19, and as a result, I think we're probably all hungry to get information, get answers, get things done. So COVID-19 would seem to be an opportunity in some respects to help people to do perhaps a better job with serving their customers using digital channels. Is that something that you're seeing?
Absolutely. COVID is, is such a, once in a while in the industry, an event or circumstances come along that propel a massive change in technology. I believe COVID to be one of those. And all of us are privy to. I remember people who had never been on video before are now routinely doing video conferences for many hours a day, and finding that it's not only acceptable, but it's sometimes liberating. They don't have to get on the road and drive. They don't have to, juggle multiple activities to try and get into a room together, right? So there are those positive aspects. There's also, ultimately, human beings are, thrive on human interaction. So I think, the aspect of human-to-human communication, which it's somewhat kind of degraded in these times, will come roaring back, is my belief, right? Nevertheless, I think there will be some changes that there's no going back. One, the comfort that people are now starting to experience with remote collaboration of any kind, right? Work at home, or deal with a business via social media, or or move work more, or attend events remotely, right? Move meetings around so that it fits your schedule in across time zone. People are very, these are changes that are that actually suit how we want to work and live and do business. So those will be permanent. And one of the key things that will happen in the contact center is the customer will not only get used to, but demand that the business that they're dealing with be much more flexible and agile in the way that they serve the customer, right? At their time, in the channel of their choice, as predictably and proactively as possible. And in many cases, needing the human connection only when it's absolutely required to solve a problem, right? Unlike in with social activities or play or recreation, customer dealing with a business is primarily about the outcome, about getting a need resolved. And what people are getting used to, or will get used to in this time, is that you don't necessarily have to be making that call and waiting a long time to speak to somebody before having that need resolved, because that's become a premium in these days. Businesses have to solve for that, otherwise they're going to lose their customers. So any changes we make now are likely to be long-lasting and are going to be biased towards digital, proactive, and intelligent, right? All of which favor, what we bring to the industry.
So I guess I'm probably assuming here that we speak a lot about different generations and their propensity to use technology in different ways. So I'm guessing the fact that we're seeing a maturation of the younger generation, who the digital natives, I guess we probably call them, and perhaps we're also seeing that they're driving some of this change too, because they don't want to pick up the phone and have a conversation. They want to serve themselves and be in control. Are you seeing that as being a significant factor in what Koopid is seeing as that transition in that digital space?
There's probably some of that, Graham, but I actually tend to view things a little bit differently, in the sense that I think the need to communicate, I think, transcends ages. Yes, I mean, I think you will see a preference among the millennials for text first. Don't want to speak to anybody, but that doesn't mean they're not kind of tuned into the need for human connection, right? It's just the need is just expressed in different ways. And I believe what happens with technology, Facebook or Instagram or things like that, it expands the manner in which humans can connect with each other, right? What has changed is, I think there's a bias towards more asynchronous interactions, if you will, as they make sense, right? So, for example, two people don't have to be at the same place at the same time and to be able to hear their own the voices for them to be able to effectively communicate. They can be, A can be posting and B reads at a later time and responds to that post. Perfectly effective way of communicating, collaborating, right? It's happening across industries, across recreational areas, and so on. And I don't think that necessarily limited to just a millennial effect. I do believe, for example, older people have gravitated to environments like Facebook. WhatsApp is probably, the adoption of WhatsApp among people of all ages and all generations it probably doesn't discriminate, at the level of generations or age groups at all, right? So I think it's really technology that's now available to us expands the range of our ability to communicate, collaborate, work with each other, make each other happy, or inform each other, and more importantly, to be able to deal with the businesses that serve us, right? It's independent of age group. It's independent of preferences. It's only dictated, I think, by to some extent how easy is it to use that technology. I mean, the beauty about the telephone call is that it was incredibly easy to use, and so everybody used it. The newer technologies, the digital technologies that provide that kind of really expanded range of communication, the ones that will win are the ones that are easy to understand, easy to adopt, available at one click, work in a predictable, pleasant, even beautiful way, and work all the time and are ubiquitously available, right? I mean, those are what will guide, not age groups. And I believe, smartphones, social media, text, online collaboration and communication, these are now technologies that have crossed the chasm from being novelties 10 years ago to mainstream now. And hence, hence for a business to be able to interact with its customer base, it's become non-negotiable that they need to be able to use and leverage these because their consumers are used to it, regardless of age group.
Yeah. So I guess this whole notion of choice, isn't it? It's about meeting customers the way they want to engage with you as a business.
Exactly right.
So kind of, we've spoken about who Koopid are and the journey that you've been on. I guess it's, as all journeys, it's probably full of lots of different experiences. Some you'd probably like to forget, and some you'd like to remember forever. Be good if you could share some of the lighter moments. Talk to us about some of the successes you've had, if you will, Venky, and perhaps that'll help bring to life some of the use case examples of how people can see for themselves how Koopid might offer a significant benefit to them if they were to go down a similar path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic question. So, there's both like a personal element of this and a technology element of this, and I think I'll try and highlight both. From the personal element, I mean, we are 3 years old as a company. As I said, we come from a great background, and I think the team that we've assembled to run this charge is peerless in the industry, right? So. I can't tell you the number of times when we try to enroll a customer, the counter offer is for them to enroll an employee, right? So, it's a good it's a good situation to be in sometimes, but we're here to deliver value to the industry, and it's nice to know that we bring the credibility that sort of motivates others to see if you're willing to abandon what we're doing in order to join them. But no, we're here to stay, and we're here to do business, right? So that's and it happens much more often than I thought it would. From a business perspective, what's been interesting and both gratifying and challenging in different ways is that we set out to build a platform that changed the rules of the game. We believe it did for the following reason, right? Every customer we talk to has something they've wanted to do. They haven't figured out how quite to do it with any of the technology they have. So they live with whatever they can do. When they ask us, can we do it on Koopid? Not only, in most cases, can we tell them yes, but in a majority of the cases, if you're in a video conference with web sharing, we can actually pull up the tool and show them, hey, look at this. We've just built it for you. And that's an aha for them, right? That, wow, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I didn't think it could be done, so we've abandoned our efforts. But is awesome that we can do it, right? So that's extremely gratifying that the platform has that kind of power. It's also challenging because then, if you can do everything, then there's a question as a business of what do you say you don't want to do because you want to focus on specific things that you want to deliver from a market perspective, right? As a business, as a technology, you want to build a platform that is more capable than everybody else. But as a business, you want to drive focus in a few areas where the need is great, where you can kind of build a motion to sell a product, to place it in customers' hands, get it working, and so on. So both a challenge and an opportunity. Our technology is incredibly powerful. I haven't, I may be just a teeny bit biased, but I think there's nothing like this on the market today. But from a go-to-market perspective, it's where we are engaged in sort of almost narrowing down the scope of what we tell the market we can do, so that it's an area that we can bring some momentum to, right? So that's kind of where we are, and in that spirit, we're focusing on contact centers. Back to the story of the digital transformation of the contact center. We think there's an immediate need, especially in the new normal post-COVID, so the majority of contact centers in the world are probably are still voice only. Majority of them are still on-prem. A vast majority run on some amount of legacy that's in their technology stack that is hard to remove or replace, right? So all of those are true in the industry, and there is kind of, I think, a great need and a great opportunity to say, keep that, it works. Add a layer, which will simplify the adoption of these new capabilities. You can reduce the use of what you have. It still works, but you can reduce the use because it belongs to an older paradigm. It's going to be used somewhat less and less as you seamlessly move to this new paradigm of digital, AI, smart customer experience with a focus on the customer's journey. And so that's where we're focusing. We're focusing on contact center transformation, especially focused on delivering value to a customer who may have a legacy infrastructure that they cannot easily rip and replace. Right? So that's.
So what markets are you seeing interest in today? I'm sure you'd like to talk about some of the technology partnerships that you've underway, some of the channel partnerships that you've underway, in order for listeners to understand a little more about where you sit. But it'd be good if you could perhaps give us a couple of examples of customers that have come to you with some challenges, some business challenges around this area, where you've been able to very quickly, because I think one of the key issues that we've spoken about before, but not today, is the speed at which you can deliver the solutions. So perhaps if you could just start with one of the customers and maybe some of the partnerships you have to, again, perhaps put some color on how Koopid offers a significant advantage to businesses in this digital space.
Absolutely, yeah. So given our mission, which is to transform a contact center in place, our natural partners are the providers of those contact centers, right? And in the contact center ecosystem, there are three types of players mainly. One is the vendor who's sold or who's the system of record for the ACD or the PBX or the desktop, the contact center agent desktop, or the routing algorithms, right? So vendors. Another key part of that ecosystem is the provider of the connectivity into the contact center, which is typically a telco, or in the new world, it's a CPaaS, communication platform as a service. They provide typically the voice, but sometimes the SMS and other channels as well as the access into the contact center. And the third type of player that's kind of a very key part of this ecosystem is a solution provider or a system integrator, right? No contact center is just one piece of software. It's 10, 20, 30 pieces of software for different functions that have to be brought together and managed as an ongoing operation. And so solution providers or system integrators play that important role. And we have partnerships with companies in all of these spaces. In the contact center vendor space, for example, one of our most valued partners with whom we've done a lot of business is Avaya. Avaya is a leading provider of contact center solutions, probably has the most seats of any single vendor, agencies of any single vendor in the entire industry. And of course, we come from that background. So natural partnership for us. We've done a lot of integration into the Avaya platforms, and we deliver a lot of value jointly between us and Avaya to customers as we enable the digital transformation. Another type of partner is on the telco side. So we partner with companies like Vonage for CPaaS, and with companies like Unisys, which provide telco solutions to major telco players around the world. And in partnership with them, we brought this value of infrastructure plus software intelligence to their customers, or customers who have them in that space. And an example of a solutions provider or a system integrator or a managed service provider that we partner with is Voxai, which is a leading managed services provider of contact centers in the United States. They operate primarily in a Genesys contact center base. So we work with them to integrate Koopid into the Genesys base and provide solutions to customers for things like proactive outbound digital notifications or IVR call deflection when the customer has a call center that runs on Genesys, but they need a more complete solution around the digital stack plus their contact center plus application logic that fits their business, right? So we partner. So these are just some examples. We have a number of other partners as well, very valued partners with whom we regularly work out integrations, customer outreach, and so on. In terms of customer stories, my favorite digital transformation story is probably Mashreq Bank. It's the largest privately owned bank in the UAE. It's also, I believe, the oldest privately owned bank. It's known in the region as a standard bearer for new technology adoption. We've heard that in the region, other banks look to what Mashreq does before they adopt it themselves. And Mashreq was very, very keen on digitally transforming their customer experience or customer interface. Part of that involved adopting chatbot technology to answer customer queries, but they wanted to go a lot deeper than just answer customer queries. They wanted to be able to automate customer transactions or customer interactions, right? Now, if the customer interaction is already somewhat structured and has a digital process, that's one thing, right? So websites or mobile apps are designed for repeatable, a small set of repeatable actions that a customer can do on their own. What gets challenging is, the customer's need is either somewhat unique or to them, or somewhat an exception because of circumstances in which they find themselves, right? Then, your mobile app or website that doesn't change very often cannot really accommodate that, and the customer is supposed to pick up the phone, call, and try and get to the right agent who can then parse a particular situation and come up with a solution. What we've been immensely pleased and totally gratified by is the fact that we can actually move some of those unique, bespoke, and exception type of processes to automation. And the beauty of how we did that is that we essentially worked with the agent pool that solves these kinds of problems, right? And just modeled out the scenarios, modeled out the steps they use, the applications they use, and particular resolution strategies. Sometimes the resolution for the customer involves a little bit of human judgment, right? So we modeled all that out. And with our platform, it's incredibly easy to lay out a flow, right? I mean, that's the heart of Koopid, is to be able to lay out what we call a customer experience flow, which is both the user interface or the user embodiment of the customer's experience, as well as the process or the steps that take place in the business to solve that need. So we took these descriptions of what an agent does to solve a problem, mapped them out to the Koopid experience flow paradigm, and we found that it was, surprisingly easy, B, surprisingly deep in the level of sophistication to which it could go, and because it's so quick, we can build a lot of them, right? So we went in a space of 4 or 5 months to building over 100 of these flows that all solve sophisticated problems. They're not kind of just your standard show me my balance type of problems, right? Which is kind of easy to do in a mobile app. But these are actual resolutions that require some some context gathering that is kind of very specific to the customer, establishing identity in a strong way, and exercising some amount of judgment to be able to figure out how to resolve. And we were able to do that. And to me, that just proves the power of the approach that combines this ability to lay out these flows and then attach that to a data layer and an AI layer that says that you can actually now apply judgment to the various steps in the process flow through AI algorithms. That's exactly what we did with this customer. And the net result is that they have something that they could not have gotten from anywhere else in the industry, from any other single vendor in the industry. They could possibly have defined a smaller project that would have taken them 3-4 times as long to get some of this outcome, but certainly nothing as comprehensive, speedy, or as focused on the customer experience as we've been able to deliver for that, right? So a great story that we did in partnership with Avaya. Mashrek is an Avaya customer, and this shows the value of a partnership like that, right? Avaya has been a trusted supplier to Mashrek over the years. Avaya, of course, has fantastic contact center platforms, probably the most robust and reliable in the industry. And for Mashrek to take a chance on a startup to do something this far-reaching wouldn't have been possible if they hadn't been introduced by Avaya, and they hadn't been able to say, we trust Avaya and we trust a partner that they bring in to do this, right? That was our permission to play, and what we've done reflects beautifully on Mashrek, because they're now able to keep their reputation intact for technological innovation. But it's a great story for both Avaya and Koopid as a power of partnership in delivering to this digital future.
Absolutely, and I think for anybody watching this, one of the key questions that crops up time and again with technology, particularly communications technology, is the whole question of security. And we know that banks are probably the most diligent when it comes down to security. So it's a great endorsement of the fact that this technology, if it's good enough for banks from a security perspective, and there's all sorts of protocols that have to be followed, I know, but I think it certainly should be one of those tick boxes for everybody to say, well, that's really good to know, and we need to know that particular question's covered. So I think that's a really great story. One of the things I'd like to touch on, if I can, Venky, is we talk a lot in contact centers about customer experience, user journeys, all that kind of stuff. And as a customer of many businesses, one of the most frustrating things is that very fragmented experience when you engage. Maybe you choose to engage via a chatbot to start with, and then you need to move to another channel. And then you have to start with the whole conversation all over again. Now that frustrates the hell out of me, and I'm sure it does our listener as well. Is that something that Koopid can solve as well?
Absolutely. That seamless transition from one channel to another, and continuity from whatever the customer has done on a automated or self-service set of steps to an agent. I think it's really crucial to maintaining that customer experience and customer delight, right? So, and it's historically been a surprisingly hard thing for call centers to solve. And and for people who like me who know the industry and who've looked at the technology evolution, it's actually not that surprising at all. I mean, that goes back to the point I made about fundamentally starting with a voice technology stack that served the industry for decades, and then trying to layer on additional attributes to it. Has come at the cost of being able to maintain that context and continuity, right? So starting with a stack that allows you to build context, build continuity, build channel transitions into the mix at the start helps tremendously. And we find some really nice side effects of that, which is that the agent experience actually improves because now they have much better visibility. I mean, the agent is a human being. They want to be seen as doing their jobs well. That makes them happy. And much as it is frustrating for the customer to go through these the pain of these kind of transitions, sometimes or often the customer's frustration comes out in the language they use with the agent, right? And so so the agent's performance is also impacted by the fact that the technology gets in the way, right? So so overall, if you can take care of context, transitions, and seamlessness of experience across different modalities, it's great for everybody, right? And that's what we built natively into the platform. So we're able to take the customer coming in from, let's say, WhatsApp or Facebook, start an interaction there. You can even start a conversation or a chat with a customer service rep over there. And if they need to do something secure, to, let's say, identify themselves with biometrics, you can kind of transition them over within the context of the channel to a Koopid interface that verifies the identity, perhaps execute a transaction that requires confidentiality, bring them back to the conversation, and if it will help at any point to, let's say, you want to be able to show something, if you want to be able to transition to a video call at that point, it helps that you can just click a single button in that interface or click a single link. You move over to that additional capability of adding video, complete that, and come back to where you were, right? We are able to do all that. Because of architecture, we can go, we can attach to any of these front-end channels, your website, your mobile app, social media channels, text, even voice, and then attach and go back and forth between other channels, and attach bits of automated self-service within a live conversation, or even the opposite, which is you're in a self-service conversation, but you need one thing to be resolved with the human being. You can kind of jump out, have that conversation with the human being, come back to completing your flow. We can do all that in the platform. And it is, we're finding for our enterprise customers, our business customers, it's one of the most attractive things about our platform.
So Venky, we're coming towards the end of the allotted time. I know you're an incredibly busy guy, and I know you work very, very long days. So just a couple more things, if I might. I think there's perhaps a degree of misinformation, an awful lot of false claims potentially made in the market around AI. And we've also heard about omni-channel for a long time. And I guess what's really happened is people have multi-channel, so they do add different channels in. And I think AI has seemed an attractive set of coattails to jump on. I know you said it's been around for a long time, and you worked on it some 15 years or so ago. Could you perhaps help us understand to what degree AI plays its role in Koopid's proposition, so that perhaps I can explain it to my dad when I see him, and also in your response, perhaps if you could just give a nod to the omni-channel question around why you think, and maybe you've answered this already, why you think that omni-channel perhaps isn't as omni-channel as we might people might want us to believe. Does that make sense? Is that a clear enough question? Yeah.
Very, very, very good question. Excellent question. And yeah, you touched upon two of the probably the biggest trends in the contact center industry, and for good reason. AI is, the technology is almost magical. It's come by leaps and bounds. In every respect. I mean, the ability to run loads in the cloud, collection of data at volume, the mathematical algorithms that can process it, and we all experience in our daily lives, with Siri, Google Assistant, or getting pictures that look remarkably sharp and well composed, or movies that are automatically made for us, or Netflix selecting movies for us. I mean, AI surrounds us in our daily life. And I suspect that we've grown so accustomed to it that we don't even notice that our environment is so smart, right? So one of the big defining technology themes of our generation, omni-channel, to some extent was a big aspiration a few years ago. There's a little bit of I would say disenchantment with the ability of the industry to deliver omni-channel. So speaking to both of those, I think it's very crucial to understand that the technology is here to make things better, but it's not. Our technology is here to be leveraged to make things better. Technology is not an end in itself, right? So for a business, or for an innovator at a contact center, or innovator in business, there is a temptation to say, latest and greatest in technology, I want to adopt it, right? So that's kind of more, I want to adopt the latest and greatest in technology, but sometimes that can be can misfire if you don't think through in terms of, so what does your business need? What does it do for your business? What do you want to improve in your business? What do you want to do that's new for your customers, right? So if you approach it from the point of view of customer value, business benefit, then you can make wiser choices with technology. And I suspect both AI and omni-channel have have driven some potentially over enthusiastic adopters to lose sight of why they're doing it, and get more sort of involved with or enamored of the technology itself. So AI, for example, promises, in some cases, in our world, the contact center world, cognitive capabilities. The underlying theme being that AI can replace a human, or it can be just as good as a human, or maybe it can be even better than a human, right? So the focus has been on, for example, things like conversational AI. How do you get your IVR to speak naturally to your caller and understand everything they say and be kind of super intuitive about giving them what they want, right? Or a chatbot on your Facebook that is equally empathetic and can banter back and forth and be almost human, right? While with enough effort and with enough, I would say, investment in technology, you can sort of approximate those outcomes. I do believe that in some cases they may, they may be not the optimal ways of thinking about how AI can benefit your business and your customer experience, right? As an example, we noticed that a lot of users would rather click a button or swipe a user interface to get to where they need, rather than have to explain it in words, have to respond to somebody's, confirming that that's what they understood, and maybe clarifying a little bit, and do this like about 10 times before they get an outcome, right? One click, one swipe versus 10 turns of conversation. Yeah, some people actually are chatty enough to prefer the conversation, but for the majority of the people, that one click, one swipe is a better experience. So if you're thinking of AI, especially conversational AI, cognitive AI, as the tool to humanize your interaction on your IVR by speaking naturally, you may find that you're spending a lot of time, effort, and money in trying to get that right, but you can often get there much, much sooner by saying that you'll make another interface much smarter through smaller investments, also AI investments, but potentially a different kind of AI, right? So our message to the market is that don't confuse the technology with your outcome. Use your technology, but start with the outcome or start with the experience you want to deliver, and use the technology to fit into it. And that's precisely what we've engineered into the Koopid platform. In many cases, we can actually achieve the customer's desired metrics for self-service through just simply mapping out a process flow that is pretty predictable, pretty structured, but making it extremely easy to access and use on a mobile device, right? That delivers a massive amount of benefit. You overlay the AI to make changes, to nuance it a bit, or make the transition easier to an agent, or provide agent more visibility into what just happened. Now AI is delivering additional value on a benefit that you can probably launch quicker without going through the pain and expense of understanding the math and the computing behind the AI, right? So that's one of the things that we think we bring to the market. So the best possible use of AI technology as supporting an outcome for the business that combines AI with other tools and tricks of the trade. Likewise with omnichannel, right? Omnichannel, the most common thing we've seen in the industry when people think about omnichannel is give me an agent desktop where the agent can see all channels, right? I can see Facebook, I can do email, I can do chat, I can do voice. Yep, that's kind of okay. But from the customer experience point of view, they're not emailing, chatting, speaking, and on social media at the same time, right? They want to get the job done, and you want to bias them to the particular channel that is best for them to get the job done, and provide the best possible experience on the channel, and transition them to another channel where the other channel can do a better job, right? And manage those transitions, right? So it's not so much about sort of everything at the same time in one single pane of glass, but a more thoughtful, nuanced view of the customer's journey and how there's a supporting or a mirror agent's journey connected to that customer's journey that gets the outcome for the customer quicker, easier, and with a more pleasant experience, and leaves the agent feeling that they've made another customer happy during the day. So don't get obsessed with getting a desktop that has every bit of data and cool that. Focus much more on what you're trying to optimize for the customer. Look at it from the customer's point of view, and you'll develop a better solution overall than a technology focused solution. That's what I'd say to the market, and that's what drives Koopid as kind of design thinking for customer experience, as opposed to every tool out there, you do what you want.
Thank you. That's a fabulous answer, and I'm sure there's lots of people listening who'll be saying, my supplier needs that because my customer experience is suboptimal. So Venky, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today. Thank you very much for your candid and full responses. There's loads more questions I'd love to ask you about, and maybe we'll do that another day. So I guess anybody that wants to follow up and learn more about Koopid, www.Koopid.ai, or email, I guess, info@ and sales@.
Exactly.
Venky, it's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Pleasure is all mine, Graham. Thank you. Bye.
Great stuff.
Koopid is the industry's first omni-channel experience that consolidates digital self-service, messaging, chatbots, and voice interactions into a single persistent conversation with the customer, designed for outbound and inbound customer experience management. The customer's journey is curated by a breakthrough customer experience orchestration engine. Sophisticated proprietary AI ML algorithms enable the engine to construct a hyper-personalized experience for the customer using contextual inputs, historical insights, real-time signals, and dynamic decision trees. Using Koopid, a customer can start a conversation with a digital channel and be guided effortlessly through the service.